Sí, estic aquí. Em sembla que no em veieu, però em podeu sentir. I és una pregunta per la Magdalena. Un parell de preguntes, de fet. D'una banda, el Barça ha marcat molts gols a la Lliga. Quin és el principal problema que us planteja en la defensa, defensar-los? I la segona pregunta, Magda, sé que no és molt el tema del dia, però sobre el no haver pogut anar als Jocs Olímpics, què en penses? Sí, sobre la primera pregunta, sentiu a la Magda? Passem a la Carla Garcia, o no en sent?
Carla, can you hear us? We can see you. No. Shall we try Lisa?
Yes, can you hear me? This is Lisa from Dagens Nyheter. Yeah, Magda, what would it mean to you personally to win this title?
Personally, it's been a big dream. Of course, if you're a football player, one of your biggest dreams is to lift the Champions League trophy. So a childhood dream for me and for the club and for the team, it would mean so much. And we haven't come this far not to give everything we can tomorrow and really give it a try and just do everything we can to lift that trophy.
And what would you say is the key to why Chelsea is playing in the final for the first time?
It's a lot of different things. It's not just one thing, but I think it's been a journey that we've been on for a long period of time. We have the best squad we've ever had so far. We have a really togetherness within the team. Everyone have shared a common goal. That this has been the goal for everyone, and it's been a dream for everyone. And the reason why we worked hard in training every day has been towards this goal. So I think it's due to the quality in our squad, but also how we can get the most out of the players in the squad.
And last question from me, how much will you miss the audience?
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing that takes this experience down a little bit. Having fans here, having Chelsea fans, having my family and friends here would have meant so much to me personally, and that would have made this experience, even better. But it is what it is, and I said it to my family, I will try to get us to another Champions League final so they can experience that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Let's try Marc-Andre again.
Hi, I think you can hear me now properly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to touch on the question that Petra asked, because Barcelona is a team that has scored a goal in every single game. So I wanted to ask you to stop Barcelona and to not concede any goals in this game, or do you feel that to score many goals to be able to win this game?
I'm not sure I got that question. It was a lot of interference.
Do you want to try again, Mark? Sorry, we couldn't hear you at all times.
I asked that Barcelona has scored a goal every single game. If you feel it's possible to have a clean score sheet on your side, you being a defender, and or if Chelsea has to score 2 or 3 or more goals, that's the only way that Chelsea will be able to win the game.
I think, like we've talked about before, we know that Barcelona has a great team, and for me, it's even not so much about the individuals for them. I think they are a good team on all fronts, and we just have to be ready. We have to be on it, defend like we've defended all year. We've been having a very good defensive record in our league, so I'm confident that we will do everything we can to stop them, and also confident that we have players who can hurt them.
Fantastic, thank you. Shall we go over to, and sorry if I get the name wrong here, Leiko?
Hola, bon dia. Jo tinc una pregunta per cada una de les dues. Primer per la Magdalena.
Hello, I've got a question for the both of you. In Barcelona, for Magdalena, we've been talking a lot about your experience in Barcelona and the final 2019 for you, your team. Tomorrow will be the first final. Would you think that would be an inconvenient major for the game, or do you think on the other side that no, it wouldn't make a difference, it's just a game? Thank you.
So the question is, did they have it? Because they have been in the final, yeah. It's a difficult question to answer because we have so many experienced players who've been in big games on different occasions, if it's a Euros final, if it's a World Cup final, all of those kind of games, Olympic final. So we have experience of playing in finals, and I think that is the most important experience because it's a one-off game. You have to be ready, you have to step up on that day. So I think we have an experienced team who knows what it takes to win finals.
I ara una pregunta per l'Emma.
And now a question for Emma. What would you think are the main qualities of Barcelona, and how do you think you can counter them?
I think what Magda said before, they're a fantastic team. They've been built around really strong principles of play, and you can tell in the way that they score their goals that aesthetically they play football much like a Barcelona team. So we respect them, but we also know that we have the experience and the qualities in our own dressing room.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for one more question with Magda, and then she will need to head over to training. So let's go over to Lassie Mannheimer.
Yes. Hi, Magda. A question about the development of the Chelsea team since you arrived. It was a very good team when you arrived, but a lot has happened during these 4 years. What would you say about the development of the Chelsea team?
Yeah, it's been a great journey since I joined the team. Gradually, every year, things have gone better on all fronts. Really, the squad has improved, our facilities have improved, the league has improved. My personal qualities have improved, so I feel like I've personally also grown with the team. So it's been a fantastic journey to be on, and the fact that we are here today is the proof of what we have done and how hard we have worked. And I mean, Emma knows they've worked even harder before I arrived. So this journey has been a long journey, and the fact that we're here today feels amazing, and I kind of feel like we are also here to stay.
Is it what does it say if you look at the prolific signings of Sam Kerr and Pernille Harder? It feels like it's even one more step in towards becoming one of the best teams in Europe. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think one big thing for me is that we have become a club where players like that wants to come to. They want to come to this club, and that's an amazing sign that you can have players like Sam Kerr, like Pernille, like Fran. They want to be here. They want to stay here, and that feels amazing. And yeah, the quality they've added to this team is also, you can't deny that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. So Magda's now going to leave us, and we will continue with questions for Emma Hayes. If you would like to raise your hands now, that would be appreciated. We're first of all going to go over to Paul Saffer. Hi, Paul.
Hi there. Hi, Emma.
Hey, Paul.
Hello again. Tomorrow, obviously, the biggest game in Chelsea's history. There will be no fans, as you've been used to all season.
Yeah.
But you know, so many of them will be watching on. Do you think you'll still be able to feel them, and does it make you maybe even more determined to give them something to cheer when they've been denied seeing such a great season in person?
Well, the good news with no fans here is everyone's going to hear me, so I'll make sure I'm every one of them during the game. And like Magda said, well, of course we're all disappointed that our friends, our family, the fans can't be here, but the realities are we are used to that, and the realities are, you know, we are one game away from becoming champions of Europe, and I wouldn't want to be in another dressing room. It's a group of fantastic women that have led from the front, not just this season, but throughout my time here. And there's a lot of experience on both sides tomorrow going into the game. And I think my opinion is the best two teams in Europe are in the final. And I'm sure it will make a wonderful spectacle for the fans at home.
Thank you.
Fab, let's go over to Ian at Sky Sports News.
Hi, Emma.
Hey, Ian.
You okay?
I'm all right, yeah, I'm brilliant. It's raining outside. It's just like London. The pitch is green.
You talked about it being a dream to get to the final.
Yeah.
Are you still having to pinch yourself?
Listen, I've coached a lot of top games, so when you work hard in a project like Chelsea, where the journey of getting to this point is the part of the job I love the most, you know, that includes the setbacks, that includes the disappointments, that includes signing new players, that includes winning and losing new things. So when I talk about it being a dream, for me, being in this dressing room with, as I've said, they're amazing women that are inspiring generations, I hope, at home. And in fact, I know they are. And I'm not talking about little girls here. I'm talking about scores of boys too that are becoming big fans of women's football. So the dream for me is about what I've always wanted for women's football. And being in this final after so many years with an English team not participating, I think it was about time. And I'm just delighted that we got the opportunity to do that.
You said that you think the WSL is the best league in the world. What would winning and being European champions do for the WSL?
I think it will do a lot for the game in general. And if we talk about landmark moments from 2012 onwards, I think to the last major England finals appearance, you need these big situations to continue to, I think, build upon the foundations that are already in place around women's football. And that includes the amount of coverage that this game is receiving across the country. I know everybody inside that dressing room, staff and players alike, we will give it everything we've got to make sure we're on the winning side tomorrow night.
Look, it's a big weekend for the club.
Yeah.
You have your final. The men have their final. I don't know, will you get an opportunity to watch the FA Cup final? Has Thomas been in touch with you?
Listen, everyone's been in touch with us. That's how Chelsea is. Everybody's been in touch. Everybody's, wishing each other well. And we'll finish training here. We'll get back to the hotel, and all of us will sit down together and watch the final and cheer the boys on.
Listen, just finally, can I check on your team news? Is everyone okay?
Everyone's okay.
Emma, thank you. Wish you well.
Ian. Thank you, Ian.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ian. Shall we go over to Mark again?
Hi, Emma. You talked about the experience your team has, and obviously you not only have been to a Champions League final, but you have won a Champions League final with Arsenal. So how do you think that factors in this time around?
One thing you gain in experience is wisdom, and with wisdom comes a better understanding of how to manage the biggest moments. And when I say to everybody this is just another game for us, that's because I treat every game like the Champions League final. So for me, it's no different. Yes, there may be more media here. Yes, there may be more watching eyes this week. But the realities are this is a game that we love to play. It's a team that loves to be together, and we love to be challenged by the biggest moments. And there's no bigger opportunity than to play Barcelona, and what I think will be the most watched women's game, at least of this year. And yeah, I'm just excited for it. I feel relaxed about the game, and because I know of the qualities in the dressing room.
Thank you.
And shall we go over to Lassie Mannheimer?
Yes, hi Emma, Swedish TT news agency here. I'm wondering, if you look at the Chelsea team, you see a lot of superstars up front, but the captain is Magda, your centre back. Why is she the captain, and how important is she for your team?
It's clear why Magda is the captain. She is a leader who is extremely demanding, communicative, yet empathetic. I think she's a good listener across the team. She will take on board, I think, what's necessary to make sure everybody feels a part of the team. Her standards on the pitch, I always felt that when I first watched her play for Linköping, that she would be the future captain of Chelsea and Sweden. I think she will be, because of the inevitable qualities that managing a club like Chelsea and everything that she has to undertake. And she takes it in her stride. She's classy. I wouldn't swap her for anyone in the world, because I know how much of a winner she is, and I know it's a proud day for her and her family to be leading the team tomorrow out in the National Stadium for her.
So you had the captain, the place as a captain figured out already when she signed?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you. So, we've just had one. So I can't see any more hands raised. Last call. Yes, we do. Let's go over to Petra. She should be coming up now.
Yeah, she's be coming up. So, hello, Emma. I'm Petra. I'm working for Aftonbladet Sweden. Like Magda said, you're in this for a long future, hopefully in the Champions League. So could you just give me a couple of words of your thinking about the future format and what that will make for the big clubs like Chelsea?
Well, I've been an advocate of the changes that are happening in the Champions League, and in particular the qualification for more teams from domestic leagues. So I think being in the Champions League encourages investment from clubs. I think on top of that, having a league-type format will help to build the experience for the smaller clubs that will make sure over time it will become an even better competition than it is now. And of course, more prize money, though I think it could be more.
Okay, of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic. So that's the end of the questions with Emma Hayes. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Hello and thanks for joining us as we build up to tomorrow's UEFA Women's Champions League final between Chelsea and Barcelona in Gothenburg. The Blues holding an open training session, which we'll bring you footage of over the course of the next hour. I'm Matt Davies-Adams alongside me, a former winner of this competition as well as a former Blue. Hello, Anita Asante.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
A pleasure. Pat Nevin's with us too. Hi, Pat.
Good afternoon. I'm checking. Yes, definitely good afternoon. It's so weird. There's so much going on at Chelsea Football Club just now. You don't know where you are. But this is the start, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's Magda Eriksson, who will be leading Chelsea out tomorrow with the captain's armband on. Anita, at this stage, a little more than 24 hours removed, the players just want to get the game on now, don't they? Is this kind of torture, this training session?
No, well, I think there'll be a sort of a buzz. It's always fun to get on the pitch you're going to play on and get a feel for the pitch and, just get all that energy and sort of anticipation out of the way. So, it's a bit of both, but, the girls will be ready and they'll be just raring to go, I think.
And actually, Pat, that's a really important point, isn't it? Because you're not playing on a ground that you used to. Little things like what studs are you going to wear? How quickly is the ball running? You want to get some sort of feel for that a day before rather than half an hour before, if you can.
Absolutely the case. And the odd thing is, one day, and Anita was mentioning that it rains quite a bit over there. One day might be dry, the next day may be wet, but it's actually an entire feel for the actual things like the grass itself. The grass is quite different in some different places you go. I mean, you tend to find in the UK it's all the same stuff for most of it, but it can be different when you go abroad. But certainly, it looks in good nick, doesn't it? It looks really good there. You don't want to turn up for a stadium with this sort of trophy on the line and not be perfect, but it actually looks nailed on perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially for two teams who like to get the ball down and play. Both had incredible seasons, Anita, but Chelsea's confidence has got to be sky high at the moment coming into this game because they've just swept aside all before them and broken new ground in this competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that their performances all season have shown just how ruthless they are, especially in their final third with their attacking players. And they have such a depth in the squad right now. Obviously it was a loss to lose Maren Mjelde, but Jess Carter stepped in and has done a good job for them. And I think they'll have lots of confidence, especially, surpassing their arch nemesis in Wolfsburg and finally getting to the final. So they should be, they've shown that all season long.
We'll have a look in detail at how Chelsea got there later, Pat, but the Bayern Munich game was obviously the emotional occasion, the semi-final to get to the final, but Anita's mentioned it there. It felt like Wolfsburg, in a way, was actually the biggest step because they'd put Chelsea out 3 times previously, and that surely will have instilled a belief that if you can get past that team that stopped you so many times, and Lyon aren't in it anymore, then anything's possible.
Well, I think there were a number of things to get on top of. I mean, Lyon have been like a shadow over this competition for a long, long time, right? And eventually the reign would or might have come to an end. But it's a might. But when that happened, you had to be the team, or you wanted to be the team that stepped in. So yeah, Wolfsburg's a big one, but Lyon's just as big a thing. The fact that they're not there. Had we been playing Lyon tonight, that would have been wow. Now that is something it's almost the old guard taking over for the new guard. So yeah, it was a big one to beat Wolfsburg, absolutely the case. But the professionalism of the players, I have to say I wasn't over worried about it because, you play teams every year and you think, okay, we're a different group now. We're maturing now. Emma's learned. And Emma keeps on learning. By the way, having a look at there, she's not enjoying the rain. By the way, you did warn us, Anita, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Little London, as they call it.
So we saw Emma there. Anita, you've played for... Everybody's gone big on the Emma Hayes story this week in the press. It's been brilliant to read everything about her. But I wonder if there's something in specific that you can point to that makes her the leader in her field. Certainly amongst female coaches in England, she's the trailblazer, the trendsetter, the icon in a lot of ways. Is it the man management? Is it the tactical awareness? Or is it just she's got a bit of everything and she's good at everything?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of lots of skills, within her leadership capabilities and learning from the past as well, where you have not necessarily succeeded, how to better improve that. But I would say, she's super passionate. That comes through in training, that comes through in game days. Her way to motivate players and her personal touch in terms of trying to understand the individuals in her team. But I think one of the biggest qualities about Emma is she's more of a principle-based manager, I'd say. She's not so much about, I have to play this style or that style. It's the style that's going to get me the win. And being adaptable, and whether that's personnel or rotation, then she'll do that, you know, because there's an ultimate goal, which is trying to reach for a final and hopefully a trophy.
She strikes me, Pat, as the kind of player that you would have loved to play for, because it's all about human relationships as much as it is about the practicalities of winning football matches. And that's so important in today's football, isn't it? You have to be able to deal with people as individuals, as humans, not just employees who work for you.
Yeah, she's incredibly empathetic. And I found this one night, and I'm going to rush through the first sentence quickly. She and I were sitting in a hotel room in Paris, just after the World Cup, at the end of the time that she'd been there, like going through all the teams, looking at all the players. And there was 4 or 5 other people that night. And the red wine got absolutely hammered. And she talked and talked and talked with such passion about football, about the players, about how much she cared about them, what she thought about them, where she wanted to go with them. And it's as if she had so much to say. And it got to about 3 in the morning. I'm thinking, really got to get to sleep. And she went, yeah, me too. I've got a flight at 7 a.m. And she loves it, doesn't she? She loves the game, but she is an absolute born dedicated winner. But you'll sometimes find these born dedicated winners don't care about anyone else, but she does. And that's trying to find out what's different about certain managers, what makes them special. And that's why the first time I think I said it on national radio about Emma possibly being the manager of Chelsea men's team, was Antonio Conte when he was leaving. And I thought, look, Emma has to be considered. She's that good. If you spend time with her, there's not even a question mark. She's that good that one day that is not something that should even raise an eyebrow in my mind. And I've thought that for quite a few years now, because she is the whole package. As far as I'm concerned, she's the whole package as a coach. So, in short, would I like to work under her? Absolutely loved it.
And that whole package comes from a rounded career, you know, a lot of time spent in America, assistant to Vic Akers when you were part of the team that won this competition under its old guys in 2007, and it's that experience which has got her to the point where she is today, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she will say herself, you know, having been abroad, worked with other managers and players, she would have picked out the best bits of all of those experiences and the worst and learnt from them and how to improve them. And I think that's one of her best qualities. She's also been in the women's game a long time, from when it was basically amateur to the professional game, and has been one of the people at the front of the helm wanting to drive standards. And you're seeing that year upon year in just the way she's developed this Chelsea side and all the components she's put around them in terms of the resources, the staff. That's the quality that she brings, because she wants to win and she knows what it takes, and that's from years and years of experience as well.
You can have that quality and that individual brilliance in the quality of squad as well, Pat, but you need the backing from the club, otherwise you're only going to get so far, and that's something that shouldn't be underestimated in the rise of Chelsea FCW in the last few years. You know, the integration to coming into Cobham, I know that was a massive thing for Emma, and just the feeling that they're part of Chelsea Football Club.
Historically, it's always been the problem. I mean, historically, I'm old enough to remember the history of women's football in Scotland and in England, is to get the clubs to get their heads around the idea it's the same club. We are the same club. We should work in the same ways. And Chelsea are real trailblazers at that, and it's brilliant that we've done that. Arsenal were very good, to be honest, and they pushed it ahead pretty early as well. We're trying to give as much backing as they could in days gone by. But at the moment, I mean, certainly Emma needs the backing of, you know, the club, the finances. I mean, we've got the world record of a signing fee for a women's player, so that was big as well. But in the midst of all that, she has to have a relationship with the club, and I think there's a massive amount of respect. I think the respect coming down from the upper echelons of the club, coming down seems an odd way to put it, but you know, from the absolute upper echelons of the club, for the job she's doing, the positivity that Chelsea Football Club get out of what the women's team have done, the way they do it, you know, is absolutely fantastic. And there's other things as well that, you know, they see how she deals with people. And, you know, lots of managers rub players up the wrong way, don't they? Lots of them do, don't they?
Of course they do.
She seems to, because of the honesty. You mentioned it in it a wee bit earlier there. It's the kind of honesty, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes honesty, like we always say, is the best policy. You're not always going to like what you hear from a manager, and you know, Emma at times can be that manager that tells you straight. But I think ultimately the best players in the world respect that, because they always want to push to be better, and they also want to fight to be starters in a top quality side, and that's what it takes.
And she must have been a big factor in attracting Pernille Harder and Sam Kerr. You know, you come for the Chelsea badge in a lot of respects, and you see the amount of league titles, but as players you want to be improved by the best coaches, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you see what she's built at the club, and as Pat mentioned, the respect that's throughout the whole, you know, organisation just shows the backing, and players want to be part of that because they see the bigger picture, they see the long-term picture. And you know, when you look at who she's recruited over the years, that's attractive for any of the other players as well. And you know, football is a kind of small community, small and big in a way, because lots of players know each other, and you know, when they're looking for that next opportunity or move, they'll have these conversations and they want to know what's going to be good for me to develop and progress.
And one of the people that I know, I would say is my best friends in the women's game, is Heather O'Reilly. And Heather, she's been saying so much, because obviously that American attitude she has now, winning's the only thing, and everything else is completely and utterly secondary. And Americans can be like that because the US have been, you know, the best of the best for such a long time in women's football. But you listen to her talking about Emma, and it's like she's one of us. You know, she gets where we're coming from, and she's really, really impressed by that side of it as well. So, you know, she's, you know, when the US were naming a new manager, I was thinking, please, don't even ask Emma, please don't. I remember I was doing a show on the BBC World Service and thinking I was going to bring it up, and I thought, no, I'm not going to give them ideas, because they might be tempted, because the US is, to some extent, the biggest job in women's football in the world, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm sure we're all sitting here thinking, hands off.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you dare. So.
But I guess the counter to that is, would she get the level of autonomy anywhere else that she's got at Chelsea, because she's been so integral to it? You know, you go to a national team job, or you go to one of the big teams in the US or elsewhere, you're not going to be able to run the club like an old school manager from 20 years ago in the way that she can at Chelsea, surely.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the best thing that she has with it being at Chelsea is that she has autonomy. Like you said, she can pick players and recruit players that she wants to bring in. She has an overall vision of what she wants the legacy of the club to be, and the, you know, how they're remembered, and the top competitions that they'll compete for. So there's completely different objective when you're a national team coach, and I think she loves the day-to-day aspect of being around a team of players as well, you know, on the training pitch every day, whereas national team, you get them a few weeks out of every month. It's not the same interaction where you can influence them as much, I would say.
One player I wanted to talk about as we see Drew Spencer, who is very much one of Emma Hayes' prodigies and a legend of Chelsea's, made her 200th appearance for the club this season. But I wanted to talk, Pat, a bit about Fran Kirby before we hear from Emma Hayes' press conference earlier. Voted yesterday the FWA Player of the Year. Beth England there was the PFA Player of the Year last year. She struggled to get a look in because of what Fran's done this season. And if you were coming to it cold and you looked at the stats and you said 25 goals, yeah, I can see why she's a contender for Player of the Year. But given that we're talking about a player who nearly lost her career over the last year or so because of injury and illness, it is astonishing that she's been able to get back to the level that she has done.
You never ever say it to a player has that much difficulty and that much fear of the career actually being over, that a lot of people were thinking she'll never really be the same again. And that's what happens. People think that way, because we don't all last forever in the game. But she has come back and looks utterly amazing. I don't think she's lost anything. Sometimes some players come back and they're actually slightly better because they realise what they might have lost. And when you realise what you might have lost, you think, oh, I'm going to get every second out of it. Anita, you probably think, when you're probably 4 or 5 years from the end of your career just now, and you want to live and love every game, don't you? But you get that earlier when you've had an injury.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Pat. I think at the end of the day, a career as a footballer is only so long. And so you want to, live every single moment when you can. And I think Fran has exemplified that this season. She just loves it, and you can see that. And her influence in the group has been phenomenal.
Kind of helps a wee bit when the players around you are people you can work with. So
and of course, when Sam Kerr came in, there was a lot of thinking of, well, she's coming in to replace Fran. And actually, they complement each other beautifully, and you almost can't imagine one without the other at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's this massively difficult balance of, right, okay then, so you've got massive competition, okay, but you've also got people who want to work together. And that is the most difficult thing to do in football. And I'm a massive fan of Erin as well. So, I mean, I think she's a player of the future who's going to be one of the best in the planet. But, all those players have all got their own very specialist brilliance going forward. And each time you put one of them on the ball going forward for Chelsea's women's team, it's confusing for the opposition, because you kind of don't know where they're going to come from half the time, because they're all quite adaptable as well. I mean, Sam can play centre and she can play wide, as can Fran.
And if you're a Bethany England or an Erin Cuthbert, Anita, one of the players who's thinking, maybe I'm not going to start, actually in a game like tomorrow's, 5 substitutes, there's a good chance that you'll be finishing it even if you don't start it. So mentality is going to be important if you're not named in the starting 11, that, hey, there is going to be a chance for you to come on and impact this final at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Beth and Erin will be ready, and that's what it is when you're playing for a top side. The whole team would have not got to the position they are if they didn't have players in the group who weren't starters that had that mentality. And I think there's a strong togetherness within this group, and you can see that. And when they come in, they'll be just as influential because they know what it means. They're part of this journey of, potentially creating history again. So, I think, they're incredible players, and they want to be with the best players, but they also want to show their qualities when they get the chance.
All right, well, let's hear what Emma Hayes has been talking about with the media. She spoke to the assembled press, virtually, of course, just before we came on air, actually. And the first thing she was asked about was the absence of supporters at tomorrow's final.
Well, of course, we're all disappointed that our friends, our family, the fans can't be here, but the realities are we are used to that, and the realities are, we are one game away from becoming champions of Europe, and I wouldn't want to be in another dressing room. It's a group of fantastic women that have led from the front, not just this season, but throughout my time here, and there's a lot of experience on both sides tomorrow going into the game, and I think my opinion is the best 2 teams in Europe are in the final. And I'm sure it will make a wonderful spectacle for the fans at home. I've coached a lot of top games, so when you work hard in a project like Chelsea, where the journey of getting to this point is the part of the job I love the most, that includes the setbacks, that includes the disappointments, that includes signing new players, that includes winning and losing new things. So when I talk about it being a dream, for me, being in this dressing room with, as I've said, they're amazing women that are inspiring generations, I hope, at home. And in fact, I know they are. And I'm not talking about little girls here. I'm talking about scores of boys too that are becoming big fans of women's football. So the dream for me is about what I've always wanted for women's football. And being in this final after so many years with an English team not participating, I think it was about time, and I'm just delighted that we got the opportunity to do that.
Well, we know that Barcelona has a great team, and for me, it's even not so much about the individuals. For them, I think they are a good team on all fronts, and we just have to be ready. We have to be on it, defend like we've defended all year. We've been having a very good defensive record in our league. So I'm confident that we will do everything we can to stop them, and also confident that we have players who can hurt them. We have so many experienced players who've been in big games on different occasions, if it's a Euros final, if it's a World Cup final, all of those kind of games, Olympic final. So we have experience of playing in finals, and I think that is the most important experience, because it's a one-off game. You have to be ready, you have to step up on that day. So I think we have an experienced team who knows what it takes to win finals. It's been a great journey since I joined the team. Gradually, every year, things have gone better on all fronts, really. The squad has improved, our facilities have improved, the league has improved, my personal qualities have improved. So I feel like I've personally also grown with the team. So it's been a fantastic journey to be on, and the fact that we are here today is the proof of what we have done and how hard we have worked. And I mean, Emma knows they've worked even harder before I arrived. So this journey has been a long journey, and the fact that we're here today feels amazing, and I kind of feel like we are also here to stay.
Emma Hayes and Magda Eriksson speaking to the world's media earlier today. It's Matt Davis-Adams, Pat Nevin and Anita Asante bringing you the build-up to tomorrow's UEFA Women's Champions League final between Chelsea and Barcelona. Anita, if we have a chat about the run, how Chelsea got here. I mean, Benfica was a breeze essentially, but the Atletico Madrid tie, not one we've mentioned much, but Chelsea overcame adversity there in a way that they don't often have to do. That Sophie Ingle red card, and Ann-Katrin Berger ends up saving 2 penalty saves. You know, we could have not got to the stage we're at now. In fact, we could have been out 2 rounds earlier had they not overcome this hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the point of the top competitions. When you're reaching the final stages, you're going to meet very good sides. Atletico was a good side, but good players turn up in the moments that matter. And Ann-Katrin, as you see with the save, that's exactly what she did, and it was an important save to keep them in the competition, just as it was scoring the penalty. And that's what it takes, sometimes a bit of luck, but it's about ultimately being clinical and being focused in the right moment that keeps your team in the competition.
Yeah, Maren Mjolder's penalty there, we ought to mention her contribution. She won't be involved tomorrow because of injury. Ann-Katrin Berger knows all about overcoming adversity. This is a player who got in the PFA Team of the Year a couple of years ago, 5 months after being diagnosed with cancer. So she knows all about overcoming adversity. Magda Eriksson, big to have had her back in the past few weeks, and really defensive rigidity against Wolfsburg, Pat, was a big thing in the quarterfinals, and a team that have been Chelsea's nemesis for so very long really didn't pose any kind of a threat over the 2 legs. It was almost unsettling how easily Chelsea brushed them aside, having been a thorn in the side for so long.
Yeah, but I think, as we've heard, look, Chelsea have been growing and growing and growing over a long period of time, and you just add quality year on year on year, and been catching up with Wolfsburg for a while and overtaking now. So I wasn't massively shocked by that, but oddly with some of these things, particularly the Atletico game, you're thinking, is your name on the trophy? When certain things happen, you think, wait a minute, 2 penalty saves. It's a weird thing. Players start looking at each other and smiling. By the way, look at each other and smiling. This training session, have you ever seen as much smiling?
It's a bunch of mates having a kick about and a laugh, isn't it?
Absolutely is, isn't it?
That's what it's about. I mean, you got to feel like you're just having a fun time with your mates in the park, and take all that kind of outside pressure away as well, and just focus and be in the moment. And I think that's what the girls will be doing. They know that they've got a massive opportunity ahead of them, but you've got to enjoy it as well. You can't just be, it's just looking ahead and not really living in the moment. So I think that's definitely what they'll do. And like you mentioned about Wolfsburg, I think we've gone past the stage of where we worry about them, the opposition, which we'd done previously, and they were probably focused more about how Chelsea would hurt them. And Chelsea were just able to play how they normally play, with confidence.
We mentioned the tightness and the closeness of the group. Anita, you've been with Aston Villa this season. Has the situation in football and the world, has that bonded teams closer, do you think? Because we often talk about the football bubble. I mean, you've been in the bubble, the COVID bubble this season. You've seen more of your teammates and you have plenty of your family. It must bring you closer together.
Yeah, definitely. I think in times of, like you say, adversity, or where there are certain obstacles out of your control, like a pandemic, it naturally forces these closer bonds, because you're all going through the same thing at the same time, same emotional, mental, at times physical challenges. And for a team like Chelsea that have been building, but they have a core group that has been there season upon season, They have that foundation. You know, I think for my team and other teams, maybe the challenges are slightly different, being a new group, trying to get to know each other very quickly. But ultimately, you know, if you're bonded off the pitch and you trust each other, you'll show that same strength on the pitch in moments where you need to trust your teammate.
So Benfica were thrashed, then Atletico were beaten. Wolfsburg, that was pretty comprehensive as well, 5-1. Then came Bayern Munich in the semi. Chelsea lost the first leg by 2-1. Don't call me arrogant, Pat, but I wasn't that concerned after that game. I just felt like we were always going to turn it round.
You weren't concerned at the end of that game, but near the end of the second game, I suspect you were a bit concerned. Because it was I mean, obviously, Chelsea were 2-1 down from their first leg, and that's a lot of pressure to get back in. But there's good enough players, and then you get it back, and then you think, oh, it's time to relax, and then suddenly, bang! What's that goal? I mean,
it's got to be goal of the tournament.
Unreal finish.
And now we're in massive trouble. She catches this not perfectly, but it goes in at the back post. But the whole way through this from here on in. It's panic stations, isn't it? I was like, well, we finished that one, isn't it? I didn't realise that was a header. I thought it went just straight in, but it's a great header. But what happened after that was extraordinary, wasn't it? The chances that we had.
Yeah, it looks comfortable when you watch Fran rolling it in added time to make it 4-1 there. But yeah, my heartbeat's just got back to resting rate, I think, from those few moments. And again, I mean, in that game in particular, Anita, obviously Kirby and Kerr have had the headlines, and Fran particularly in that match, and other attacking players like G2. But I thought just having Magda Eriksson back for those final stages, not just the fact that it was often her who was making those blocks from the umpteenth Bayern corner, but the organisation, absolutely critical to that Chelsea backline.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you have someone like Magda with her leadership qualities, and she talked about in the presser how much she's developed as well as all the improvements have happened, it's massive for the team. It's the core spine of the team that, those messages translate, and there's a kind of security. And when you have that consistency with your back line and your goalkeeper, it allows attacking players to feel confident to start going forwards instead of thinking, I've got to start dropping and getting into lower areas on the pitch. So it's crucial to have her back, and it's great to see her back too.
Is that something that you'd be looking at, Pat, in the teams that you played in, that spine? Who's my goalie today? How's our centre halves? Are we going to be strong in the middle? Obviously, it's not where you played, but is that where the core of a team comes from? That is
where the core comes from. The vast majority of teams, unless you are, and I hesitate to say it, unless you were the original Barcelona tiki-taka team, which is, it kind of doesn't matter. It's the whole team. But generally, most teams are built through a spine. You need to have, and even if you look at that Barca team, they kind of had a spine as well. But everyone else, you build around that and make sure you've got that strength. And it's usually a good powerhouse, but good intelligence in the midfield. It's people you can trust at the back. It's the goalkeeper too. It's massive. I mean, that's taken away some of the saves in that semi-final there were absolutely out of this world as well. And there's a couple against Manchester City as well, wasn't there? Which were amazing saves. And I mean, really, when you get that sort of core in there, that belief in there, the rest of the team kind of goes, we can go and play now.
Yeah, and it's a big shot, Anne Katrin's a big shot stopper, but I think people take for granted her ability in possession as well, on the ball, how she can build out from the back and get the team into play, and her decision-making so good that, she's not afraid to play short or long.
When they're playing games like this one that we're seeing now, is it generally agreed we're not going to do any tackling? And are you ever kind of tentative when you're doing this? Is it very much light-hearted, knockabout, I don't want to do any slide tackles, I don't want to pull anything, or is that just removed from your mentality as a professional?
I think it's probably different for every player, because as a defender, I think you just want to go in and be physical and obviously not to hurt your teammate. These things will happen. They happen sometimes, by accident, but every player wants to be competitive, but they've got to find the balance. Obviously, they'll strike the balance because they're professionals.
Is that about your individual mentality, Pat? If you're a worrier, it might come across your mind. If not, it's the furthest thing from it.
There's a whole bunch of things going on. First of all, rule of I've done every time before a big game, stay away from the centre-backs. They'll just kick you anyway, right? So this isn't all aimed at you, Anita. No, but just stay away from them. And if you've got a clogger in your team, usually sometimes a midfielder, who likes a strong tackle. They don't suddenly not like a strong tackle anymore. They'll still put it in training, you know, and it does happen. And you're going to tell us one that you can remember, aren't you?
I'm going to tell you one that producer Ollie's remembered. Go on. That was actually goal before 2008. I mean, there are a few kind of famous examples
but who
of
done
it.
them? That's the point.
Claude Makelele, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stay away from certain types of players. Like, you've got to learn this. And you know, like, through my career, various guys. I remember after my time at Chelsea and I was at Everton. I mean, don't go near Martin Keown when it's a big game nearby. He'll just kick you because he can't help it, because that's what he does. And there are some people, you know, like that, and that's because that's who you are. That is your game. That's what you're good at. And it's a wee bit thing. See if you actually jump out of a tackle. It's probably the most dangerous thing you can do, isn't it?
That's the one thing you're always told is don't go in 50, you know, go in 100% because you're more likely to get hurt. So I think if you carry that mindset, 9 times out of 10 you'll be okay. And you know, in this case, you know, I would say avoid Millie Bright because you know, she's great at tackling and she has the physical stature, and I think every player on the team knows that. So
you want to stay out of Rosette, basically. Let's have a look at how Barcelona have got on in the latter stages of the competition. They saw off Manchester City and PSG. The City game made me a little bit nervous, Anita, because it actually looked, particularly in the first leg, like there was quite a big gap in quality between the teams. But this is a Barcelona side which have been phenomenal. They've just won the league with 8 games to spare. We can see from the quality that they've got that it's not going to be the kind of game that Chelsea often play, where they are heavy favourites and where they get a lot of the ball. They might spend more time out of possession than with it tomorrow.
yeah, but this is why I'm excited for this fixture, because, you know, to play the best and win major trophies, you've got to play top quality sides, and Barca will be that test for them. Chelsea are a team, like I said, are very adaptable, so they can play when they have the ball a lot, or when teams you know, don't allow them to have possession. They can still hurt you, and we've seen the counter-attacking strength of Chelsea. So, you know, I'm not concerned for them in that respect. I think attacking-wise, they'll still be able to show that quality.
They made the final in 2019, Pat, and were pretty handily beaten. Does that give them any kind of advantage that a lot of these players have played in this particular match before?
See, I've watched this Barcelona team, and I also think of the Spanish national team. And the Spanish national team, to some degree, my favourite team. They are lovely to watch. They are a fabulously good football team to watch. Now, they're not winning things yet, but it's it almost feels like a matter of time. So they've got real quality there. I mean, a hell of a lot of them happen to be playing in this game coming up tomorrow, and they are very, very good players. Whether that 2019 helps, probably a little bit, but not massively that will spook our players. I don't think that's going to be the case. But there's so many players in that team that can score. I mean, such attacking players. And I was at that game when I'm trying to think, was it Norway versus Japan? Was it Sweden versus Japan? I'm trying to remember who she was playing for that night. But it was Martens was playing. She scored the 2 goals. And
Netherlands.
Yeah, Netherlands. God, she's too blonde. She's very blonde. That's exactly who she was playing for. I knew there was something wrong there. I was saying that. But I was at that game. Was that a semi or quarter final? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, but she was just lethal that night. And I mean, she's a player just on her own that's dangerous. But you look across that front line, and I think they've got danger coming from the bench as well. But then again, so have we. And that tells me, and I hope there are. I'm going to say another thing. I hope there's a load of goals in this game, because there'll be so many people watching this game, and it's such a brilliant thing for women's football. And I felt this way at the World Cup in France as well. Look, here's the chance to show the entire planet. And I tell you what, the teams didn't let anyone down. It was fantastic. And I remember thinking afterwards, don't drop the ball now. Let's make sure we push this. And this is the pandemic's got in the way, but the nights like this is going to actually bring it back again, and I would like it to be a brilliant game against 2 teams that are superb but very different.
So this front 3, we often talk about Chelsea's Anita of Harder, Kirby and Kerr, but Barca's is equal to it in a lot of ways, isn't it? You've got Caroline Graham-Hansen, who a lot of people watching will know. Jennifer Hermoso's got 6 goals in the tournament already. And Laika Martins, who you used to play alongside, so you can tell us all about her quality.
Yeah, no, I think you've mentioned three of those players. You've got Oshoala as well, Putellas in the midfield and behind, all good technicians of the ball. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a challenge. They have to nullify their strengths. And these games are about fine margins, aren't they? The team that makes the least mistakes, the team that create the most chances and are clinical in the right moments, that will be the defining point. But I think it will be a thrilling match, hopefully.
Fine margins, something that might be significant, Pat. Barca are missing Andrea Pereira, centre-half. Don't have a natural replacement therefore. And again, it underlines what I was talking about earlier, the importance of Magda Eriksson to Chelsea and that partnership with Millie Bright. We'll look at partnerships across the pitch, but that might give Chelsea an advantage that their two centre-halves have a brilliant understanding, know how to play against each other. When you're going up against three of Europe's best, that's got to work in your favour.
Yeah, and I think maybe Guajara might go back into the central defensive position from the midfield.
Yeah, I think you're
There's
right.
a real possibility that could happen. So
That's not ideal, is it?
It's not perfect, but but they've got real players. I mean, everyone you mentioned that team. But Mati was a player that I'd watched that I really think she's pretty special. And so it's everyone you mentioned there almost, but I got a particular liking for her ability. But yeah, any weakness that you can possibly find, you'll try and push it. But I don't think it'll be weaknesses. I think it'll be qualities that win this game. I think when each team shows their best qualities and plays at their best, it will take. If Chelsea don't have their best day, they won't win this game. And if Barcelona don't have their best day, they won't win this game. It's about showing up with your A game. And the thing that's difficult about it is Barcelona have been so brilliant this year, haven't they? I mean, their goal scoring is incredible, but then Chelsea are on for the 4 trophies. They tend to bring their A game every week, so it's difficult to see who's not going to do it.
Somebody who usually brings their A game and has been huge, Anita, is Pernille Harder this season. She's maybe not got the headlines of Kerr and Kirby, but I was looking at her Champions League record, 30 goals in 37 games, and the Wolfsburg title was kind of written in the stars that she was going to score in that one. But how important has she been in terms of facilitating what Sam and Fran have been able to do?
Yeah, Pernille is a fantastic player, offensive midfielder. I've had the pleasure of playing up against her for many years, so I just know how difficult she is to play against. I think one of the qualities she has is receiving the ball between the lines and creating space for others, and she can absolutely find a pass. And, the way she can supply Fran and the likes of Sam shows the top level quality that she has, but she can also score goals. So she's kind of an all-rounder in terms of a midfield player and a great, another great leader in that respect, because she's been there before a number of times, obviously winning as well. So she'll be able to add that quality.
Kerr and Kirby, you played against them this season at
I
Warsaw,
have,
I seem to remember.
Yep.
Without wishing to bring up bad memories.
Don't rehash it. Come
on. It's quite a difficult prospect trying to keep those two quiet.
The thing about Fran, or the Kirby alliance as we should say, is that their movement is phenomenal and it's constant. They're throwing the kitchen sink at you all the time, and you have to be, your concentration and your sort of unity as an opposition side has to be there throughout the game, and the way they move for each other and off each other, and Fran is not only good at scoring goals, but she assists Sam all the time, and Sam is a threat in and around the box, especially in the air. Like, she is so good in the air, and the fact that they can do everything from open play, you've got to watch crosses into the box, and you don't give you a moment to not, be concentrating.
Feels weird to think now, Pat, back to the start of the season when Sam was having some struggles in front of goal and missed some chances. It feels like a long time ago.
It does, but she still does miss some chances. She gets ones and doesn't always put them away. Yeah, I hesitate again, but, Timo Werner, not dissimilar in his season, but I think Sam, she's come through it that bit more. And I agree, is what Anita says. Sam actually is quite creative as well. She'll create, goals for others. And in a way, certainly that was Timo Werner's thing. He ended up just creating more goals, and that helped. But also, you look at her pace and willingness to get away from defenders. That's pretty special, isn't it? She always seems to be on the shoulder. She's always between the centre-back and the full-back. It's really intelligent. And when she's running in goal and a defender coming towards her, the thing that I like is she's generally very, very calm. Good attackers are calm. Good strikers, good finishers are calm. they don't quicken. They slow down when they get in front of goal. And I think that was her problem early on. She was so desperate to impress. She was just doing it that bit quick. When she slowed down, relaxed in front of goal, it all went perfectly well.
We mentioned Ann-Katrin Berger briefly, Anita, but you can't really underline the importance of having what her manager considers to be one of the 2 best goalkeepers in Europe. She's pushed by 2 quality backups that Chelsea have got as well, but there's no doubt that she is the first choice and has been absolutely critical for Chelsea this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, by having the likes of Carly Telford and Cecilia Musovic as well in training, just the competition level must be very high, and that pushes her levels up and up all the time, and that's what you want in a first pick goalkeeper. And she's proven that all season long, you know, by making fantastic saves in crucial games like we saw in the Man City game, which was important, you know, title decider as well. And that's the trust, the back line. You want to have that in your goalkeeper, knowing that they're going to be there communicating to you, but also, you know, players make mistakes sometimes, or incidences happen, and you want to know someone behind you is covering your back, and she's managed to do that for this Chelsea side.
And in terms of the quality in training, the competition for places, Pat, that really shows its benefit when you get something like the Maren Mjelde injury, which has meant that Jess Carter's come in, and initially you think, we've lost A, our penalty taker, B, one of our most important players who delivers brilliant crosses in, which is a big source of goals, but then Jess Carter comes in and you think, oh yeah, we're missing Maren Mjelde. I'd sort of forgotten that because she slotted in so well.
She has slotted in so well, but there was a moment again in the Man City game. She had a tackle quite late on, and it was at the back post, and she came in and she just laid on, because she's powerful, isn't she? Jess is powerful, right? And she had this brilliant tackle, so brave, but timed it absolutely perfectly. And yeah, and I think she's growing as a player as well. It's always good to have good players around you, but that's why you have this size of squad. And you know, who would you? I mean, to be honest, if Fran get a little injury again, I'd say, well, okay, Erin, come on, you come in, you do it. I mean, and others as well. So that's what you have to have. Yes, you will miss players, and all the way back to goalkeeper. I agree. She's been absolutely fantastic, but you don't panic, and that's what we've built as a squad, and that's why there's a comfort and a confidence. I'm not sure Barcelona have got quite that depth, and I think that's one thing in our favour in this game.
Well, look, we mentioned Pernille Harder earlier and her influence on this team. Let's have a look a bit more now in focus at Chelsea's record signing.
Well, Pernille, you know, her experience speaks for itself. I think she's going to have to adjust to her time in England, whereas had a very prominent role in Wolfsburg. I think her role here with Chelsea will build over time.
Obviously, I know Pernille really well, and I know her determination. She really wants to be the best in the world. She's worked really hard to get to this point, and she has an amazing talent, but she also has a really high work rate. She really wants to get better all the time. She's been on the biggest stage for a long time, so she brings experience like that. She's played in finals in the Euros, she's played in Champions League finals.
Here is Pernille Harder with England in the middle. Drop of the shoulder, that from Harder. In towards England. She's missed it. Fran Kirby hasn't. Dream start for Chelsea. Right, this corner. Right into the mix. Keeper came and didn't get it, but Pernille Harder did.
Now the first half of these two games is done, and we're up to 2-1, and we're happy with that.
Rest and refocus.
Rest and refocus and eat and sleep.
Enjoy the win. We certainly will.
Yes.
Any last words?
It's Matt Davis-Adams, Anita Asante and Pat Nevin building up to tomorrow's Champions League final between Chelsea and Barcelona. One of these two clubs will make history. They'll be the first to ever win both the men's and women's editions of the tournament. Of course, Chelsea could get both this year. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Pernille Harder, Anita, I guess in another season she might have won Chelsea's Player of the Year award, but as it is, she might be, I don't know, third. But for the kind of character she is, I think she's absolutely fine with that, isn't she? It's all about the team rather than the individual.
Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing that with all of them when they're, you know, when they've won things or the top goal scorer or whatever, that they're still talking about their teammates and talking about the team and how the team has helped them reach those milestones. So she's definitely that kind of a player. And me personally, I love watching Pernille, but I think you've not seen even the best of her yet, in my opinion. I think she's still got so much more to show and give. And hopefully, you know, if she doesn't win it, that will push her on to try and reach it for the following season.
And that experience, actually, Pat, we mentioned about Barcelona having been in the final in 2019. Pernille was the captain of the beaten finalists last season, so she knows all about this game as well, and that's got to be useful.
And that's why when people talk about, oh, they've been in the final last season, you forget players move around quite a lot, you know, and you've got lots of experience at lots of different levels, and even being in cup finals in your own country, and other players that have played in the States, all that sort of stuff. Anita, I know you've moved on a great deal yourself. I mean, what an amazing experience that you've had yourself. But a lot of the best women footballers are like you. They've moved around a lot and got that experience. So I don't panic that Barcelona have been there and we haven't.
No, exactly. And it's all about, like you say, those experiences sort of teach you lessons for what you might face. Because if you hadn't had them, maybe you wouldn't know how to manage the last 5 minutes of the game when it's, you know, back to back or whatever. And that's what you need from every individual player on your side, that they can be leaders in the right moments and calm the team down or, you know, drive the team forward.
But as we look toward the game, I'm negative, and we'll be brief on it, but I want to mention it. The game's going to be played in front of no supporters. We've been talking about the strides that women's football has made, particularly in England, but in Europe more broadly over the last 5-10 years. If you can move the men's Champions League final to a country where you can have supporters, why could they not do it for this one?
I think possibly for the reasons you're imagining is probably correct. It should always be taken with the same seriousness as the men's one. So I'm disappointed with it. I'm very disappointed that there are no fans in there, because it's going to be a limited amount of fans at both. It could have been limited at both Champions League, so why not have them both? It is a real sadness, because in simple terms, I think a lot of time UEFA, although they sometimes speak a good game, it's time to remember about the fans, remember the future. In the midst of all that, remember, we've pushed on the women's game, they've helped a bit. It's slowly but sure. By the way, I can't concentrate here. Have you seen the quality of the goals that have been battering in there? There was one in the top corner about a minute and a half there ago. She's looking at the team there, isn't she? And she's saying, right, do I take them off now? Because you actually can peak too much and then it kind of fizzles out a wee bit. They're flying there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're absolutely smashing it.
Will she be saying to them, you're flying, you're doing brilliantly here, or will she at this time be wanting to just bring everybody down a bit and kind of keep focus on the game and not get carried away?
No, I think Emma will definitely be reinforcing all the positive things they're doing in training right now and telling them to continue that. She won't overly hammer it, I don't think, because I think she still wants them to keep their eye on the prize and stay focused. But you know, she's always there to drive the team forward, and that's what she does well. And she'll keep pushing them so that they know, you know, tomorrow is the day that when it matters, and they've all got to put everything together.
I think we could probably name 8, maybe 9 of the starters. In terms of the big issues for selection, I guess it's Jess Carter, you'd think would start at right back, but we have seen Niamh Charles there. And then if that is the case and Jess is at right back, do you go Niamh Charles left back, unorthodox position for typically a right midfielder, or do you go with Jonna Andersson and lose that bit of attacking flair? Maybe you need an out-and-out defender against that Barca front three.
Well, the great thing you've mentioned there is that Emma has options. and a number of options and a number of ways to tinker around with the team. I think if she opts with Jess Carter, she knows she has that defensive strength to start the game at least and see how the game progresses, and then perhaps Eve Charles can come in with her offensive capabilities and add to the attacking strength. Equally, we know she can do a great job on the left. It just depends on how Emma wants to utilise the strengths of Jonna Andersson, who has obviously great crossing ability as well.
And if we're thinking it's going to be 4-3-3, Pat, then I think the other issue maybe you could say Leupolz has got the shirt, so she'll keep it. But if we think it's going to be, you want Sophie Ingle there as kind of the blocker, you want G as the creative, then you're looking at either Guro Reiten, your mate Erin, or Leupolz. Again, it kind of comes back to that thing of they're more finishers than substitutes, the people you name on the bench in games like this, because you can bring on 5. So maybe you start with Leupolz and G and Ingle in the knowledge that one of those probably is going to play 60-65 minutes, and then you'll be looking to change it.
I mean, just, if you're going to be too brave about it early on, you can lose the game. So you probably will go with Sophie Ingles and Leupolz. I just can't see them not starting, right? I just can't see it, because you'll get a steadiness as well as everything else, and certainly Sophie, you'll get real defensive knowledge as well. So you'll do that to start with. You tend to leave a bit of creativity on the bench, so you don't panic. So it might actually not be G. It might not be. I wouldn't be shocked if she was one to bring on later, because remember, it's not got the extra time, and you would love to have some big options to bring on in extra time when others are tiring. And G, with her, use the word experience, with her experience, maybe that explosiveness is used at the right times in games. So I'm not saying she won't be starting, but I wouldn't be shocked if she's one of the ones that thinks, okay, we'll bring you on later, you can be the big change.
It'd be a massive call, that, Anita, wouldn't it? Because she's been so central to the evolution of Chelsea over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful I'm not the manager with all these difficult decisions to make. But, the point is every single player has a role to play. And if they have that understanding within the group, it's about winning something major for themselves and for the club. G knows her qualities. We've seen it time and time again when she's popped up with last-minute goals. And I agree with Pat, that's what she can bring in the moments that you would need to maybe bring a creative option, and having that steady sort of midfield base in the likes of Leupolz and Ingle would just steady the ship early on, calm the nerves, get them settled, get a feel for the game, and then they can suddenly be more brave and more creative as it progresses.
I'm going to talk a bit more about Emma Hayes before we go. Pat, has the bulk of her work's been done now for this game? Is it almost as much about what she doesn't say as what she does, in terms of not overloading people and just trying to keep it all a bit loose and light, or is that not realistic?
But by the end of the season, well, it's not exactly the end of the season, but you kind of know your job. You kind of know what's expected of you. You'll have done all the stuff in the opposition already, so you'll know that much as well. I actually think the fact that she's kept them all smiling here is maybe as important as anything else. She'll also, a good manager at anything, and it doesn't need to be football, it can be anything, knows the personalities of the people that's underneath. And she'll know the ones that she might have to pop into the room tonight and say, doing her okay, and tell her a joke or say something light or focus her in a different way. That's what the good managers do. And she'll also know the ones that, no, she's fine. She's all right. I don't think you're going to have to go up to Erin Cuthbert and say, are you a bit nervous? Because it's not going to happen, because that little moment she had in the camera there was absolutely so brilliantly typical, wasn't it? But there's others, the ones that, they'll all say they're not too nervous, but you'll know the ones that actually needs a little bit of help.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. I agree. And I think, at the same time, you want consistency. You want to approach every game as you would, because then you don't also heighten those emotions or, the pressures going into this game. Everybody already knows how big the game is, so their focus is there. So just by being yourself and being how you normally would be with every individual, I think will just, allow them to feel like, I'm just going into another game.
You'll try and do everything exactly the same tomorrow that you would do for a normal evening game. That's exactly it, yeah.
Yeah, you're creatures of habit, you guys, aren't you? When Emma was part of the Arsenal staff in 2007 when you won it, Anita, did you see this kind of progression in her career there? Could you see kind of the makings of the coach that she's become, or was she very much the assistant and it's a different role, so she was doing different things?
No, I think back in 2007, I think Emma was highly influential in our side, and every single player you would speak to today would say so. They would say Emma had a massive impact in the group. She did a lot of our coaching, a lot of the sessions, and her knowledge of the game, you could always tap into her brain and she would give you advice, whether that be collectively or individually, on how to improve. So I think we knew then how talented she was, and that's why there was a belief within the group that we could achieve what we did, and she's just grown and developed herself, from that time to show the levels that she's displaying today. And for all those players, I know the Arsenal players will be super proud as well to see just how far she's come and how she's developed this side.
She was told by a psychic that she would be the Chelsea manager one day, and that was when Chelsea women were not what they are now. Pat, she's a very modern coach in that she didn't have a playing career, ended by an ankle injury when she was skiing, when she was part of Arsenal's academy at 17, and that's kind of the way that football's going now, isn't it? It seems that it's more important you have a background in coaching than in playing.
I remember all the way back to playing in my career, it wasn't the fact that it was a big name player, it was coach. Absolutely no effect. That gives you 10 minutes in the dressing room. You better have the game behind you, you better have the knowledge behind you, you better have the respect behind you, you better have everything behind you. So yeah, being an ex-player or an ex-top player, yeah, it might get you a step on the rung of the first ladder of about 10. But after that, you need everything else. And she's gone and done all the other things that she has to do. Look, she knew football before, she played football before to a degree, and who knows where she could have got to. But all the other things about learning about management, all travelling the world and learning off of the best, all that's just as important as anything else. And I think we only need to look back at Jose Mourinho, what he did, and he came through. And he played at a really quite average level. But look at him, he was telling the best players in the world what to do, and they were listening. That's Emma.
Yeah, say the same for Arsene Wenger, and Brendan Rodgers will be managing in the FA Cup final later on today as well. So when you won it in 07, Anita, just for people who don't know, it wasn't the competition that it is now, was it? The final was over 2 legs for one thing, but it was much lower profile than it is today.
Yeah, back when I played it was a UEFA Women's Champions League, I think is what it was called, and or Women's Cup, and it didn't have the same visibility and the interest. We didn't have the coverage now that, everyone can tune in and watch worldwide. So we didn't have that kind of exposure. But also, I think the growth of the game in general, the clubs that are playing in the competition now, those clubs that played then, some of them don't even exist. So that's just how far the game has come along. And obviously the progression within Europe has been massive. And it's great to see 2 new finalists in the competition. I think that's what it's about, is showing that growth in quality on and off the pitch.
And that progression, Pat, really should continue next year when we get this revamped competition with a group stage and an extra place for associations like England, who will have 3 teams in it, and crucially, much more prize money. And that's, I'm not saying that in a kind of money-grabbing way, but that money then needs to filter down to the rest of women's football, bring the standard up. That's kind of the whole point.
Well, that's the sort of thing that I mentioned very early on there about the largest transfer fee, and it's Chelsea that paid that. Eventually, that's what has to happen. The bigger clubs, because they get more money coming in from, from the television, from sponsorship, and obviously Emma and Ollie's given us that she wasn't enough to play every single. Again, Heather Riley, I talked to her, same again. No, it's not enough. We need more. We need the whole game to be sponsored much better, and now backed much better by the organisation, be it FA, be it UEFA, whatever, FIFA as well. But I'm just looking at it now and thinking, I'm seeing something good. And this is not meant to be sacrilegious, but Man United are getting stronger. That's a really good thing. That is a really good thing, because if you get Man United, Chelsea, I'm hearing not so great stories about City. Some of the American girls have maybe come back home. We would want them to be building as well just now, because when they build, I think the other teams below them will be pulled up with them. It may take a wee while, but that will happen, and that's not just in England, obviously.
No, and I think it's a two-way street, isn't it? We want clubs to keep driving the standards internally in terms of resources and investment, but we need major competitions and brands and sponsors to get behind it too, because that's an extra incentive for those clubs to, push towards that and give a bit more and put a bit more behind it. And we're seeing just the quality on the pitch, how much it's developed over recent years, and so I think we can all see that it really deserves that push. to get, even domestically in the league, you got two clubs like Arsenal, Man United fighting to get into this competition. That's how close it is. It shows that progression.
Extra time and penalties a possibility tomorrow then. 5 subs as mentioned. There will also be VAR in operation for the first time in this season's competition. Pat, you're usually pretty good at predictions. You've said lots of goals. Is it going to go all the way to extra time? What's the final score in Chelsea's favour going to be?
I think the women's team have understood what the men's team do to all us Chelsea fans, and they're going to do the same again. And it's that torture at the end, it's putting us through the mill, and there's a bit of me that won't mind that at all. If it goes to extra time and we win 2-1, I will be delighted and not surprised.
Okay, so I'm putting that down as 2-1. I know you said if, but that's going in your prediction. Anita, it's not going to be 0-0, I don't think, is it?
No, definitely not. And I didn't want to be too PC, so I was actually going to give the same scoreline, and I was definitely going to say extra time, because who wouldn't want to see more football as long as you could? So yeah, I think it'll be a 2-1 score as well in extra time, but they'll definitely keep us on our toes, I reckon.
Awful lot of games, Pat. Extra time, fitness-wise, might favour Barcelona, given they've wrapped up the league with 8 games to spare, given that they have massive wins every week. They surely can't have expended as much energy recently as Chelsea have.
Yeah, and I've noticed they have changed their team a great deal. I mean, some of the teams they played against Madrid, and they made a huge amount. 7 or 8 changes in that game. On the other hand, I just think the strength and depth that Chelsea have got, if there is any players that need a little bit of rest, if there's any injuries, I think Emma can make 4 or 5 changes that won't necessarily make us any weaker. I look at every player there. If Sam gets injured, it's all right, you've got Beth. It's fine. It's cool. And I think it's kind of like that all over the pitch. You don't want to lose anyone. And I just think we've got more opportunities. I think that's why both of us are saying extra time. They might be lively, but we've got backup.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've said throughout, we've got the squad depth. And the trust in those players, because they've shown it all season long that they can do it when they're required. Sometimes rotation can work against you as well. Barca have done that, so you might lose momentum in the flow within your team, whereas Chelsea have played relatively consistently with a similar lineup for most games, so they'll have that feeling anyway that just drives them, because they have the trust and the flow within their game.
Right, that's just about going to do it for us for today. I hope that's got you in the mood for tomorrow's game. Many thanks to Pat and to Anita for their insight. Of course, it's a fairly big week in the history of Chelsea Football Club, I think it's fair to say. And just an hour from now on chelseafc.com and the Fifth Stand, we're going to start our build-up to the FA Cup final. Pat will be a part of that. He and I will bring you live commentary of the match as well. We're hoping that this is going to be the most glorious of seasons for Chelsea Football Club. The women, well, they've already got the league title in the bag. They've already got the Conti Cup in the bag. They're still in the FA Cup. You want to count the Community Shield? Yeah, let's go for the quintuple, shall we? It's not going to be easy against Barcelona. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff UK time. You know that Emma Hayes will have Chelsea absolutely ready to go. 2 of the best teams in European football going head-to-head in Gothenburg for the ultimate prize in women's club football. It will be an evening to remember one way or another. Let's just hope that we're seeing Bethany England and Sam Kerr and Fran Kirby and Magda Eriksson and Emma Hayes get their hands on the trophy tomorrow as Chelsea look to win it for the very first time. Many thanks for your company this afternoon. 8 o'clock kickoff. Remember, tomorrow, Chelsea versus Barcelona in the Women's Champions League final.